Congratulations.
Honor.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks, Melanie. Thanks, Hunter. Thanks, CPLI. And thank all of you for being here. And thank you for that great honor. Many of you all know that you don't do the things that you do in life because you hope you're going to get an award. But it is humbling when you do get one, because that says that there are those who have recognized some of the things that you've tried to do to impact the lives of others. So I'm humbled, and thank you very much for this opportunity. Sarah and the others have instructed me to be nonpartisan today. I will do the best that I can, because leadership is nonpartisan. Leadership can be bad regardless of what your party affiliation is. We've all lived through good leadership, well, mediocre leadership, bad leadership. We've all lived through it. And so what I want to talk about is a topic that I love talking about. I talk about it often. I have lived it for over 45 years. Leadership is common sense. The implementation of the principles may not be common, but leadership is common sense. I wrote a book back in the 1990s with that title, Leadership is Common Sense. Someone asked me, why did you write another book on leadership? I wrote a book on leadership because all of the thousands of books on leadership out there must not have gotten the message across to people. And then when I started to think about the great leaders in our history and the great leaders in the history of the world, I realized that many of the great leaders, the truly great leaders, didn't learn their leadership principles from a seminar or a book or a speech. Great leaders, I believe, instinctively possess those qualities that are exemplified by great leaders. I happen to believe that great leaders are born. Good leaders keep working at it. You can't take someone with no instinctive leadership abilities and turn them into a great leader. That doesn't happen. But you can take people who have a desire to learn some of those fundamentals and turn them at least into a good leader. And if you look and study the great leaders of the world, the great leaders in our history, the few leaders that we have today, you'll see that they have a few things in common. First, leaders clearly articulate the mission, the objective, the vision, whatever word you want to call it. People want to know, where are we going? What are we trying to accomplish? On my radio show today, I had a former Marine call and express his frustration as someone who has been to Iraq and he fought. He went to Afghanistan and he fought. And he made it back alive. And he said that one of the biggest frustrations was they didn't always know what the mission was. That's a disservice to our men and women in uniform. That's not a partisan statement. I'm telling you what the military said. And I get that all the time. What are we trying to do? What are the priorities? When I went to Burger King Corporation's Philadelphia region early in my career, the mission was get that region's performance from the cellar to somewhere higher than number 11. They only had 10 regions. we ranked 11th. How do you get to be 11th when there's only 10 regions? It was just that bad in terms of performance. So when I got to Burger King Corporation and they made me vice president and general manager of that region, the first thing that I did was I went out in the restaurants and in the field and I listened. I listened to the franchisees, I listened to the restaurant managers, I listened to the crew members, I listened to the customers, I listened to the suppliers and distributors of our ingredients. I listened, which is one of the first qualities that a good leader has. Great leaders listen more than they talk. And after listening to them, I realized that what the Philadelphia region needed, I did the same exercise at Godfather's Pizza. I did the same exercise when I went to head up the National Restaurant Association. I started out by listening to try to determine what was it that they saw should have been the mission/vision of the organization. And if you listen, they will usually tell you. Your job is to be able to articulate it and shape it in a way that you can use it to get everybody on board. What's the mission? As we observe the 25th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall, we're also observing the 200th year of the signing of the Constitution of the United States of America. Dr. Benjamin Franklin was one of the ones who helped to craft that great document. And when he came out of the Constitutional Convention Hall in Philadelphia, because they got together behind closed doors in order to put it together, Dr. Franklin came out. And a lady from Philadelphia said, "Dr. Franklin, what have you given us?" Dr. Franklin said, "A republic, madam, if you can keep it." That's our mission, is to keep this republic strong. One of the things that makes this republic strong is that foundation called the Constitution of the United States of America. Y'all ought to applaud for something. Where would we be without the Constitution of the United States of America? Yes, it gets tweaked. Yes, we can add amendments. There's a process for that. A republic, if we can keep it. And I'm not mad at y'all, I just get passionate about this. My wife tells me sometimes when I'm on the radio, "Herman, you got to stop sounding like an angry black man." I said, "Darling, I am an angry black man." I am an angry black man. I'm angry because our republic is under attack. It is up to us to fight back. I didn't say push back. Fight back. A republic, madam, if you can keep it. That's our mission. How do we do it? 3 simple ideas. W-A-R. W. Work on the right problems. In some circles, they call it prioritization. But Mr. Poole is about working on the right problems. If you don't work on the right problems, you're not going to end up with the right solutions. One of the things that frustrates me about how our federal government works, not just recently, but over decades, is that they engage in incrementalism rather than solving problems and rather than working on the right problem. Companies have started to leverage the insane tax code that we have. Some of them are leveraging it to be able to move their headquarters to other countries in order to minimize their tax commitments. Rather than work on removing the barrier, which is the third point, they work on creating more barriers to try to discourage people from leaving this unbusiness-friendly environment, going to a better business-friendly environment. That's not working on the right problem. That's not working on the right problem. I can sum up our biggest domestic challenges, our biggest domestic issues in 3 words: the tax code. Have you noticed that you don't often hear people running for office or people in office using the word replace? Barry, I want to hear you say that on the trail, okay? Replace. The tax code can't be reformed. You can't simplify it enough that it's going to stay simplified. It has to be replaced. That is the mission. Replaced. When I was running for president, Sarah, I keep walking over here looking for some water, but it doesn't seem to appear yet. When I was running for president, some of you may remember that I ran for president. I can specifically remember doing one of the presidential debates. Former Senator Rick Santorum was critical of my 999 plan. He said, "Oh, that's cute. It's catchy. Thank you. Absolutely. But it'll never pass in Washington, D.C." And his reasoning was, and he said this, they have to propose stuff that can pass, not things that are going to fix the problem. And as a result, we have a Congress of the United States of America that's engaged in incrementalism. They just passed a continuing budget resolution to get us through December. Do y'all realize the last time we actually had a fiscal year budget that was voted on and passed and signed? Nearly 20 years ago, back in the mid-1990s. That is pathetic, especially when in the Constitution it says that they have an obligation to pass a budget, but they simply have ignored it. So it starts with working on the right problems. When I was at Burger King, I had to ask the right questions. That's the A, to make sure that we were working on the right problems. W, work on the right problem. A, ask the right questions. R, remove barriers. Remove barriers to self-motivation. Dr. Peter Drucker was one who made the statement during one of the few times I had an opportunity to hear him. Early in my career, Dr. Drucker said, "You can't motivate people. People must motivate themselves." There's no such thing. People must motivate themselves, but you must remove the barriers that's preventing people from being self-motivated. That's what our job is as leaders. When I got to Burger King, we were trying to get out of the cellar. And so the strategy, after listening and figuring out the right problems to work on, I asked the people in the organization, do we have problems with the Whopper? They said no. Do we have a problem with the French fries? No. What about the chicken sandwich? No. At the time we were using Coca-Cola products. Do we need to change? No. Well, why is it that the sales and the profitability of this region is so much worse than everybody else? And after doing a lot of listening, they basically said, when it comes to service, we suck. So we worked on service. We took service from suck to successful. From survive to thrive. Because corporate out of Miami wouldn't allow me to change the Whopper. I didn't even have the authority to change the pricing on the menu board without approval out of Miami. But the one thing that they said that I could change, the one thing that they didn't say what I couldn't do was the service. So we came up with the program to elevate the service way beyond what that region had ever done and what any other region had ever done. And in 3.5 years, folks, doing the basics, doing the fundamentals, and making our top priority service, we went from 11 to 1. Focusing on the right problems works. When I was at Godfather's Pizza, did a lot of listening, asked a lot of questions. Came back, found out Godfather's biggest problem was lack of focus. Godfathers were trying to do too many things too fast with too little resources, so they weren't doing anything good. Lack of focus was the problem at Godfathers. So what did we do? We worked on creating focus. As an example, because their sales were sinking, they were headed for bankruptcy. The parent company was Pillsbury. We headed for bankruptcy. Pillsbury had given up on Godfathers. They didn't think it could be saved. So when sales started to go down, and they were bringing in presidents like they were popcorn from the popcorn stand, they had 5 presidents in 3 years. 5 presidents in 3 years. They didn't even have a good opportunity to warm up the presidential chair in the office before they were out. 5 presidents in 3 years. Do you think the people knew what the mission was? No. Do you think they knew what the game plan was? No. And so our mission was to establish focus. As an example, they had, out of desperation, they had the original Godfather's pizza crust. They had developed another product that mimicked the Pizza Hut crust. They developed another product that mimicked the Little Caesars crust, and another one to mimic the Domino's crust. It was all about the crust. And then they were trying to market and promote 4 crusts. So I made my first executive decision. I said, what started and built this company? The original Godfather's pizza crust. Singular. And I said, get rid of the other 3. But what if somebody comes in and they're looking for a crust that looks like the Pizza Hut crust? Send them to Pizza Hut. You're not going to capture every customer for everything under the sun, or you will never develop any focus. We went back to the original Godfather's pizza crust, and it had the advantage of using the best toppings in the business, in the industry. That's what made the product so popular. It was just good pizza. We use the best ingredients, the best pepperoni, the best ham, the best sausage, best cheese. Use the best flour for the crust. And you do it consistently, and you go and tell the consumer that, okay, we brought back what it was that you used to love us for in the first place. And then after about 14 months, we went from losing money on the way to bankruptcy to making money on the way to thriving by working on the right problem. Ask the right questions. And the barrier that I had to remove with the organization was, what are we trying to do? What should we focus on? And if people don't know what you're trying to focus on, they don't know what to focus on. Work on the right problems. Ask the right questions, and remove barriers to self-motivation. The franchisees and all of the people in the company were excited about this new strategy. I call a system-wide meeting of all franchisees and key people from the field, suppliers and vendors, and announced this great strategy to turn the company around. And the strategy had one word on it: focus. They loved it. Why? Because that's what they told me. You listen to your customers, a lot of times they'll tell you what it is that you need to hear. Whether you're talking about burgers, whether you're talking about pizza, whether you're talking about restaurants, or whether you're talking about the United States of America, the principles are the same. Are we working on the right problems? No. Are those in elected positions asking the right questions? No. And are those responsible for making and enforcing the laws, removing barriers to self-motivation on the part of the voters? And the answer is no. As a result, this economy is stalled. General Accounting Office has estimated that our GDP, gross domestic product, for the year 2014 might be an anemic 1.5%. Might be. They say might because when they started the year, they said it was going to be 2%. They've been ratcheting it down. Why? We're not working on the right problems. Unemployment. The real unemployment rate in this country is nearly twice what the reported unemployment rate is when you count everybody. If you undercount, you're going to get 6.3, 6.4. But if you add in the people who've given up, you add in the people who were taking less jobs than they would otherwise have wanted to have, the real unemployment rate in this country is over 12%. 12%. I reported yesterday on my radio show, the consumer price index went up 0.2% last month. So Leroy and Bessie is saying, well, what does that mean? Leroy and Bessie are two names that I use when I want to refer to working people, everyday folk. I really do have an aunt named Bessie, and I had an uncle named Leroy. So I can say Leroy and Bessie. I'm talking about members of my family. I ain't talking about nobody. I'm talking about members of my family. Aunt Bessie and Uncle Leroy. When I tell them, consumer price index went up 0.2% last month. Aunt Bessie says, so what does that mean? That means that the price of hamburger has topped $4 for the first time in history. Oh, she understands that. Hamburger is up. Everything in that grocery cart's up.
Yep, that's right.
But median income is down by about $2,000 per family. Taxes are up for everybody. Wages are flat. Can we do better than that, folks? I think we can. I know we can. It's going to take the right priorities, working on the right problems, asking the right questions, and removing barriers. One of the biggest barriers that's holding this country back is some of the deliberate deception that goes on. So here are the 3 suggestions that I have to challenge you in your quest to help keep this republic, as Benjamin Franklin challenged us. First, stay informed. One of the reasons you're here, because of the great work of this organization. Stay informed, because stupid people are ruining America. You don't want to know how you beat the stupid people? You outvote them. But you got to create more informed voters. Some political strategies include assuming that the people are stupid, lazy, and uninformed. Let's see if we can't throw enough money on TV to convince them that up is down and down is up. And sometimes it works. Stay informed. I tell people all the time on my radio show, the one thing that we pride ourselves on at HermanCain.com is telling people the truth. We check and double check sources. Sometimes we cross check, because we want to make sure that people can go to HermanCain.com and feel as if they can trust what we put up there. And not everything on the internet is factual. There's a lot of garbage on the internet. There's a lot of untruth on the internet. So what I tell people is, find those sources you trust, write them down. Go to those sources on a regular basis. We have our list of sources that we trust, which represents the basis for the content that we provide on the radio show and the commentaries that we write. So write them down. On top of your list, put HermanCain.com. MediaResearchCenter.org. They're the watchdogs of the media. But develop your own list. And a lot of the commentaries we write, we put hot links to where we got the information from. You may want to note those. Stay informed. Secondly, stay involved. With all due respect, I'm glad that you all are trying to figure out the correct type of public policy we ought to be pursuing at the state level as well as in Washington, D.C. That is good. But what are you going to do with all of this wisdom and knowledge? That's my challenge to you. How are you going to leverage it? Some people run for office. Not everybody can run for office. I understand that, but everybody can do something. You got to figure out what that is. Everybody can do something. Stay involved. I have spoken at over 145 colleges and universities in the last 2 years. Why? Because we have a lot of young people on these campuses that need to be encouraged that the American dream is still alive. It just may be a little harder to achieve your American dream these days, but it is still alive. You wouldn't believe the reception that I have gotten. A lot of these college campuses that have the reputation of being a bastion of liberal thought, well, when a conservative speaker goes there and the students know about it, we have overflow crowds. They just may not be out front because of the intimidation and some of the intimidation that comes from some of their professors, but they are there. They want to believe, they want to be told and encouraged that the American dream is in fact alive and well. So stay informed, stay involved, and stay inspired. I reported on a survey result today that was one of the most disturbing survey results that I had ever come across. And that is 6 out of 10 Americans do not believe that the American dream is possible anymore. How disheartening. They don't believe that the American dream can be achieved. And what I say to people who have given up and they don't believe that the American dream can be achieved, I said, what about the people who founded this nation and fought the wars with bombs, bullets, and bayonets? What about the war to keep this nation together under the leadership of Abraham Lincoln? What about the Depression? What about World War II? What about the civil rights struggle that this nation went through? We've gone through much worse, folks, and this too shall pass if we stay involved, informed, and inspired, and believe that we can keep this republic, as Benjamin Franklin said. But everybody's got to do something. And as a great philosopher, Pokemon, said, life can be a challenge. Life can seem impossible. It's never easy when there's so much on the line, but you can make a difference. There's a mission just for you. Just look inside and you will find just what you can do.
Let's get into some questions.
Just look inside and you will find just what you can do. I believe we can keep this republic. Thank you.